an interaction that I had today with Gene Epstein. Do you guys know who this is?
Yeah, he does debates and stuff, right? He's always like a pro-capitalist guy.
Yeah, exactly. He's a very adamantly pro-capitalist guy. I remember, Michael Brooks once speculating on air that there's a some psychodrama going on here because Gene's mom was actually a member of the Communist Party back when.
Whoa.
But I personally wouldn't say anything like that. I'll just refer back to it. But in any case, I debated this guy almost 2 years ago in like the weirdest place I've ever been to go to do a debate, which was the Villages in Florida. And then today, after some more back and forth about it, he brings up this debate that we had in 2021. When I debated at Ben Burgis, he admitted he'd be prepared to jail, albeit reluctantly and hesitantly, those choosing a conventional firm over a worker-owned, an authoritarian streak that I hope is not shared by other socialists. He tags Bhaskar, Sankara, and Professor Wolf.
Oh, he's dragging them into it.
I know, right?
Unbelievable.
He's snitch tagging.
He's snitch tagging. Look what Ben said, guys. Don't be friends with him anymore.
Yeah, well, you'll be amazed to know that this isn't exactly what I said. But
what?
In the debate, right? It was about capitalism and socialism. So I have to say, I spent this debate talking about capitalism and socialism and why I thought socialism, would be better. He mostly spent saying, well, if you want workers' control over the means of production, you should just try to start worker co-ops and hope that you can, outcompete Amazon or whatever. And if you don't do this, then you're a hypocrite and you don't have the courage of your convictions. None of which has anything to do with the debate topic, right? It's about capitalism and socialism. But in the course of it, he said, "Oh, so you want to use the iron fist of the state?" I remember that was a phrase he used to force businesses to be organized the way that you want them, to be, right? To be worker owned. And at a point, I was like, yeah, here are some policies I think we could do that would that would help shift us over to an economy that was dominated by that. I was like, okay, but like when you mandate it, or mandate it for firms over a certain size or whatever, it's like, yeah, I could see circumstances under which I'd support that. And he said, well, so you're saying people should go to jail, for not going along with this. And I pointed out that labor laws are typically not enforced by jail as a first resort, right? You get a fine maybe.
I think Howard Schultz would be in jail many times over if that's how they were actually enforced. So
100%, yeah. I mean,
Howard Schultz would be serving his 200 consecutive life sentences for many NLRB violations that he's been busted for. Yeah, it's just typically not how it works. I mean, I suppose theoretically, if a regulatory agency fines you and then you just doggedly don't pay the fine, then 20 steps down the road, you could actually get to a situation, where you were doing time. But you could say the same thing about traffic tickets or noise violations. That's just doesn't seem that, interesting to me.
Yeah.
So,
but they hate those too, and they hate those too, right? Or they don't believe you need a driver's license. I don't know about this guy though.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, famously at that Libertarian Party convention in 2016, not Gary Johnson, who's the one they ultimately nominated, but the rest of the candidates were like, no, you shouldn't need driver's licenses to drive a car. What's next? Do I need the government's permission to make toast in my own damn toaster? That was a example.
Oh, I love that guy.
Yes,
I love that guy.
Didn't he strip naked during that debate?
If so, that's not the clip I saw.
Okay.
But, maybe we could do a Thursday night debate breakdown sometime and see if that happened. So Bhaskar, having been snitch tagged, responds, says, if the property laws of democratic socialist government say that firms not cooperatively owned employ wage labor should be liable to fines and prosecution, why wouldn't there be punishment? If you violate OSHA laws, there's punishment too. Is that authoritarianism? All right, now, does anybody want to guess if Gene ever directly responds to that question?
I would have to say probably not.
Yeah, he does not.
not.
This, I believe, is as close as he gets to directly answering it. He says, sorry to hear this. Whether or not you support OSHA, one can at least make the case that it's intended to prevent physical harm, which is, notice, by the way, that nothing in that sentence says like what he actually thinks about it.
Right.
Whether or not you support OSHA, one can at least make the case that's intended to prevent physical harm. Does Bosco really believe I'm harming him if I work for a firm structured like Google? Will he also jail me for harm done by pro-capitalist tweets?
I think yes. I think we should jail him, actually, just for fun. I don't know. See what happens.
What these guys don't know is that the jails in Ben Burgess's model society are going to be so nice. Like they're going to be. I just know Ben would do those luxury.
They're like, no, Ben would definitely do Norwegian jails where it's like, holy shit, this is way nicer than my apartment.
It's basically the Villages. Is what Ben's jail is.
Ben's jail has golf carts, shuffleboard. You know,
yeah, it's just the Villages, but if you try to stray beyond the boundary, there's that giant bubble for the prisoner.
Yes, absolutely. The dome, Stephen King's dome.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah, you have to spend 6 weeks in that, if you don't pay your fine.
Yes.
At this point, I will admit to getting irritated, say, Gene, you know perfectly well it's absurdly bad faith straw man. The analogy would be other laws that protect the direct, literal economic interests of workers, e.g. minimum wage laws or laws against union busting, not harm done by speech. Which seems like a pretty straightforward distinction to me. Gene is troubled by it. Says, sorry to hear this from Ben.
It's very fatherly. It's very grandfatherly the way it's so. Man, I'm really disappointed in Ben.
Imagine him seeing that tweet and just being like, "Oh man, this is such a shame. It's really sad. This ruined my Sunday."
I'm not mad. This is the thing with Ben. I'm not mad at him. I'm disappointed in him.
He can do some. He knows better. He knows better.
Yeah, exactly. He knows. There's so much potential there.
Yeah, exactly. He just knows if I applied myself, I could spend all my time advocating for lower taxes for rich people. If some freely choose to work for a conventionally structured firm like Google, the only harm done to others is via the force of the example. Hence, no different from the sway of speech. If worker ownership is so much better, what does Ben have to fear? So I, pointed out, in response to this, I guess we don't have this one. It's okay. The argument he's making here, you could equally make against minimum wage laws or laws against union busting, right? That it's like, well, look, if it's better to work in a place where you paid over minimum wage, just hold out for one of those jobs. If it's better to work in a place that will, that won't fire everybody who starts to, tries to start a union, then, just do that. And like the whole dynamic of this exchange is that I really want him to admit that he is also against all of that stuff, because he obviously is.
Yeah.
But he doesn't want to say that.
Right.
Because
not a popular position.
Yes, not at all a popular position. So I say, okay, so wouldn't this apply to laws, minimum wage laws, to laws against union busting? And he says, does Ben really need to keep forcing these analogies? To put a finer point on it, I choose to work for a conventional firm like Google for $150,000 per year. Ben no longer needs to get back to me, since I know his reply. He knows. He'd first warn me, but then reluctantly throw me in jail.
Yeah, definitely. You going to jail, buddy.
Yeah. So, pointed out that this is, if they're forced, he should be able to explain to me why, given his libertarian principles, there's a difference between them. He did have 2 years to think about this since that debate at the Villages in 2021. And also, obviously, nobody's like, why is he even talking about the worker? That's not how this works at all, right? I mean, that like, they like if there was some law saying like firms over a certain size, have to give work, everybody who works there or has worked there for a certain amount of time, voting rights to elect the committee that runs the firm. It's like if there was an employer who flouted that law, I mean, like clearly the employees wouldn't be the ones who'd be fined, right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
they're the employer's being fined on their behalf, just like if they're being paid less than minimum wage, just like if they're being fired for trying to start a union. So this whole thing is just very odd, and kind of the last we might have to hold so Andy did find the libertarian striptease. I think that might have to be in the post game, but
Yeah. That's after hours. That's after hours stuff.
yeah, GTAA After Dark.
Yeah.
But the bizarre thing about this to me is like, this is something that in the debate itself was really aggravating, because he wants to use these super libertarian arguments against socialism, but he doesn't want to grapple with the fact that these super libertarian arguments could equally well be used against everything that makes capitalism a little bit less of a Dickensian nightmare right now. And they could also equally well be used as arguments against, like, look, I mean, if you really want the state to butt out of the economy, I mean, like, what does that look like? Do we even have a modern economy? Which is something that, I did try to push at our debate at the Villages.
Mm-hmm.
Going to show just a minute of that.
Does it really matter at that point? Why would you still be offended by it?
I got you. Thank you. So yes, I think that first of all, of course, it goes without saying that I don't accept the hypothetical that truly clean capitalism would result in this greater prosperity. In fact, I think in the real life, in numerous ways, every successful market that's ever existed has been propped up by numerous forms of state intervention. That without state-backed currency, without limited liability corporations, without intellectual property protections, all sorts of things that many libertarians object to, I think it's very unlikely that we would have a form of capitalism that was even close to the level of prosperity that we had right now. But even if I did accept the premise, right? So it's an interesting thought experiment. If we had much less poverty, but we still had rampant income inequality, would that still be objectionable? Well, it would certainly be less objectionable, because one of the things that's wrong with income inequality is that it results in the coexistence of great wealth and great poverty, and redistribution could solve a lot of that. But that's not the only thing that's wrong with income inequality. Another thing that's wrong with income inequality is that it makes political equality ludicrously impossible, because concentrations of wealth in every country that's ever existed always lead to concentrations of political power. Sometimes Americans believe we can campaign finance and reform our way out of it. Not going to happen. Concentrated wealth always leads to concentrated political influence. Another thing that's wrong with economic inequality is that it gives some people much more power over others in workplaces. So yes, I have to say, I find extremely unlikely hypothetical that you just gave me, then I would think that would remove one of my objections to income inequality, at least income inequality as extreme as we have. It certainly wouldn't reject, it certainly would remove all of them. And I am very, very curious about how far Gene would actually want to go in removing the state from the economy, and whether he really believes that really removing the state from the economy so we can have some libertarian vision of clean capitalism is going to lead to more prosperity, as opposed to realistically quite a bit less.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you for the question, Ben. Briefly, again, I don't know. I didn't invite Paul Krugman. I invited you. With respect to that question, it's a big topic. Obviously, I do believe that under crony capitalism, the rich and powerful are supported. You even seem to believe in regulatory capture. You suggested that clearly, if we weaken the state, if we go back to something like the vision of the founding fathers, we'd have much greater justice in this society because the state is used to protect the powerful. That's the basic nature of the state. You pass laws, you pass regulation, the powerful, the moneyed interest get interested. That, to my mind, is just sort of basic political economy. The only thing I would say, however, in terms of actually relating to the larger question, is that what Ben wants to do is foster a dystopia of greater government power.
Conspicuously, no answer to that question. I mean, like, his answer was like, well, if I wanted to answer that question, I would have invited Paul Krugman, not you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay, that's nice. Can you give me a little preview of what you would have said to Paul?
Yeah. He also uses, I remember he's the guy who uses the term crony capitalism a lot, right? Like, we're not under his ideal version of how economics should work because because there's like some state intervention or whatever, right? But yeah, it would have been nice to hear his answer. Like, what does he think? Because that's my thing with libertarians is like, it seems like an exhausting form of life on the planet. Like, oh, I got to make sure my food doesn't have poison. I got to like do all the like regulation myself to the point where I cannot live a normal life. You know, like that seems like to me the reality of the libertarian vision of the world, you know? I mean,
there's my all-time favorite example. People have heard me talk about this before, but is Joran Brook from the Ayn Rand Institute.
Love him.
That yes, he basically, one of the first episodes of the show he was on, he sort of accused me of wanting to take away his television, I think.
And he was doing this in an empty room too, which made it even more absurd.
It's like, I don't even see a TV, man. I think
he loves. I have heard debates with him, and he's very afraid that someone's gonna like take his like TV and his like DVD player and his Roku. Like that's his main thing is that he has this crap that he like really loves that somebody's gonna take from him.
I mean, I don't know how much like I would be willing to sign a pledge. Committing myself to under no circumstances your odds Roku.
I'm not signing anything. I want that Roku.
Well, here's how you can tell that Jake is the actual union organizer on the screen. He's like, what? I'm gonna make a concession before we even start negotiating.
Yeah, everything will be under.
Roku is still on the table.
Yeah. He's got some first editions of Atlas Shrugged that we might have to keep
redistribute.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's pretty striking how these people always act like the fact that crony capitalism exists is completely as if it's completely independent from the nature of capitalism itself. Like there's some kind of magic version of capitalism that would exist in which there wasn't this intertwining between the state and big business. I would love to hear what they think that is and how that's going to come about. I mean, and for the record, I think socialists should answer that question too, in the sense of like concentration of power is an issue, right? That you're going to have to deal with, and you're designing your society. But it's like kind of ridiculous. They act like it's just different levers you could turn, like turn up the capitalism, turn down the government. We got an ANCAP fantasy, unless there's something I'm missing here.
Yeah, totally.
I think it's the Scotsmen that they're not true Scotsmen in capitalism. They're just cronies.
Well, because I mean, like, yeah, why is it that you end up with this entwining, right? Like, I mean, essentially, like, this is always the thing that seems crazy to me about it, because it's like, look, if you accept that we're going to have massive inequality of material wealth, the idea that that's not going to find ways of translating itself into massive inequality of political power just seems insane to me. It's like, of course it will, right? Like, it's like you're just going to have like a more virtuous class of rich people who aren't going to try to exercise political influence. You have been watching free public content from Give Them an Argument. To access every single episode of the show, the main show on Monday nights, all of the streams, all of the debate breakdowns, all of the patron-exclusive post-games on Monday nights, all of the patron-exclusive bonus episodes every week, and much, much more, go to patreon.com/Ben Burgis. I cannot resist ending this with, don't be foolish.